The illusion of abundance, why more choices make us less happy. Good morning. Thank you all for being here today. I'd like to start with something that might seem counterintuitive. Imagine walking into a grocery store to buy a simple bottle of olive oil. 20 years ago, you might have found two or three options. Today, you'll likely encounter an entire aisle dedicated to olive oil alone. Extra virgin, light, organic, first cold press, Italian, Spanish, Greek, California, each in various sizes and price points. This abundance seems wonderful, doesn't it? A celebration of freedom and autonomy. More choices must equal more happiness. But does it really? Recently, I had the extraordinary opportunity to interview Jabrita Pryor, a brilliant behavioral economist who has revolutionized our understanding of human decision making in the modern world. Her groundbreaking research across 5 continents has fundamentally challenged everything we thought we knew about choice, freedom, and happiness. Jabrita isn't just an academic, she's a visionary whose work is transforming how businesses design experiences, how governments craft policies, and how individuals navigate the overwhelming complexity of modern life. What Jabrita revealed through her decade of rigorous research challenges the very foundation of how we structure our societies and our personal lives. Her insights aren't merely academic, they're profoundly human, touching the core of our daily struggles and deepest aspirations. Jabrita's work has consistently shown that the relationship between choice and happiness follows an inverted U curve. That is, happiness increases as options increase, but only up to a point. After that critical threshold, that sweet spot of optimal choice, more options actually make us less satisfied, more anxious, and paradoxically, less free. Let me share one of her most illuminating studies. Jabrita and her team set up a tasting booth in a high end supermarket. On one day, they offered shoppers 6 varieties of jam to sample. On another day, they offered 24 varieties. Which display do you think attracted more people? The larger display, of course. About 60% more shoppers stopped when presented with 24 options. But here's where it gets fascinating. When it came to actually purchasing jam, 30% of people who saw the small display bought a jar, while only 3% of those who saw the large display made a purchase. That's a tenfold difference. Why? Because when faced with too many options, people become paralyzed. They can't decide. And even when they do decide, they're less satisfied with their choice. Jabrita calls this choice overload, and it affects virtually every domain of our lives. Think about it. When we have too many options, several psychological phenomena occur. First, we experience decision paralysis. The cognitive load becomes too great, and we either delay choosing or avoid it altogether. Second, even when we do choose, we experience what Jabrita calls opportunity cost. Each choice represents the loss of all other possibilities. The more options available, the more we sacrifice by selecting just one, and the more we worry about what we might be missing. Third, our expectations rise dramatically. With so many options, surely one must be perfect. When reality inevitably falls short of this fantasy, disappointment follows. And finally, we blame ourselves. With so many options, if we're not happy with our choice, it must be our fault. We should have chosen better. The cumulative effect is what Jabrita powerfully describes as the tyranny of choice, the way that abundant options transform freedom into a kind of burden. I can see some of you shifting uncomfortably in your seats. This idea challenges a fundamental assumption of modern society that more choice equals more freedom equals more happiness. It is practically the cornerstone of consumer capitalism and liberal democracy. But what if this equation is fundamentally flawed? Jabrita shared with me the story of Eliza, a brilliant young woman who participated in one of her longitudinal studies. Eliza graduated at the top of her class from an elite university. She had offers from prestigious companies across multiple industries. She had talent, education, connections. The world was truly her oyster, and she was miserable. I should be grateful for all these opportunities, Eliza told Jabrita during their interviews. But instead, I'm paralyzed. Every choice feels like closing 1,000 doors. How do I know which path is right? What if I choose wrong? Eliza's anxiety wasn't a personal failing, it was a predictable response to choice overload. The weight of unlimited possibility had become crushing. Contrast this with Miguel, another participant in Jabrita's research. Miguel grew up in a community with limited economic opportunities. He had always known he would follow his father into the family construction business. While this might seem constraining to some, Miguel described feeling a deep sense of purpose and satisfaction in his work. I never wasted time wondering if I should be doing something else, he explained. Instead, I put all my energy into doing this one thing exceptionally well. Miguel wasn't haunted by the ghost of roads not taken. His constraints had paradoxically freed him to fully inhabit and find meaning in the path available to him. This pattern emerged repeatedly in Jabrita's research. Those with the most options often experience the most anxiety, while those with more constrained choices frequently found deeper satisfaction and meaning. Consider another striking example from Jabrita's work on retirement planning. She found that for every 10 additional fund options an employer offered in their 401k plan, participation dropped by 2%. People were literally foregoing free money, employer matching contributions, because they were overwhelmed by too many investment choices. Or think about dating in the age of apps. We have access to more potential partners than any humans in history, yet rates of loneliness and social isolation have never been higher. When people have too many options, they become less willing to commit to any single one. Each choice seems inadequate compared to the idealized composite of all available options. Jabrita shared the story of Sarah, who had been actively dating through apps for 7 years. There's always someone new to swipe on. Sarah explained, I meet someone great, but then I think, what if there's someone even better just one more swipe away? This constant search for the optimal choice had left Sarah perpetually dissatisfied, unable to appreciate the genuine connection she had made. This phenomenon extends beyond consumer goods and personal relationships. It affects our careers, our healthcare decisions, our education paths, even our identities. In a particularly revealing study, Jabrita examined career satisfaction across different cultures. She found something striking. Those with the most career options, typically privileged individuals from wealthy nations, reported significantly higher levels of anxiety and dissatisfaction with their chosen paths than those with more constrained choices. When every path is theoretically available to you, the weight of choosing the right one becomes crushing. Uh, uh, each career becomes not just a job, but an identity statement, a reflection of your values, potential, and worth. The stakes feel impossibly high. By contrast, those with more limited options often found deeper meaning and satisfaction in the paths available to them. They weren't constantly haunted by the specter of what might have been. This isn't to romanticize constraint or to suggest that fewer options are always better. Clearly, having no choice is worse than having some choice. What Jabrita's research suggests is that there's an optimal zone, enough choice to provide autonomy and self expression, but not so much that it becomes paralyzing. So, what does this mean for us? Practically speaking, first, it means we need to be more intentional about the architecture of choice in our society. Businesses, policymakers, and designers need to understand that offering more options isn't always better for consumers or citizens. Sometimes carefully curated choices serve people better than unlimited ones. Second, we need to develop better tools for navigating abundance. Jabrita suggests several powerful strategies. One approach is what she calls satisficing rather than maximizing. Satisficer sets standards for what would be acceptable, and once they find an option that meets those standards, they choose it without looking back. Maximizers, by contrast, feel compelled to examine every option to find the absolute best one, a recipe for anxiety in a world of abundant choice. Another strategy is to deliberately limit our own options. Successful people often do this instinctively. Think about Steve Jobs wearing the same outfit every day, or Warren Buffett living in the same modest house for decades. By removing certain decisions from the table, they free up cognitive resources for more important matters. Jabrita also emphasizes the importance of cultivating gratitude for what we have rather than ruminating on what we might be missing. This isn't just feel good advice. Her research shows that gratitude practices measurably increase satisfaction with our choices and reduce the anxiety of opportunity cost. But perhaps most importantly, Jabrita's work challenges us to reconsider what freedom really means. Is freedom simply the absence of constraints, the availability of unlimited options? Or is it something deeper, the ability to live meaningfully, to make choices aligned with our values, to be unburdened by regret and anxiety? True freedom, Jabrita suggests, might actually require some constraints. It might mean deliberately limiting our options so that we can fully commit to and appreciate the choices we do make. This has profound implications for how we think about everything from market economies to democratic governance to personal development. It suggests that the unrestrained proliferation of options, whether consumer products, lifestyle possibilities, or political viewpoints, may not always serve human flourishing. As Jabrita told me, with a wisdom that has stayed with me, the art of living well in the modern world isn't about maximizing your options. It's about choosing what matters and letting go of the rest. So I leave you today not just with an idea, but with a challenge that could fundamentally transform your relationship with choice and ultimately with happiness itself. Look at your life. Where are you drowning in options? Where do you feel the weight of too many possibilities crushing your ability to choose it all? Where are you haunted by the paths not taken? Now imagine deliberately closing some doors, not because you have to, but because you choose to. Imagine the liberation of saying, this is enough. This is what matters. This is where I will invest my finite energy and attention. This isn't about settling. It's about the radical act of defining what matters most and having the courage to let go of the rest. In a world that profits from your indecision, that feeds on your FOMO, that sells you the illusion that happiness lies in having it all, choosing less is an act of revolution. So I challenge you this week, eliminate one area of excessive choice in your life. Commit fully to one path without looking back. Practice the art of enough. because the most precious resource we have isn't money or even time, it's attention. And where we place our attention ultimately determines the quality of our lives. The freedom you seek may not lie in more options, but in the courage to choose what truly matters. Thank you